Hello and welcome back to Supposedly Fun. My name is Greg.
I'm Joel.
And we are here to do our monthly wrap-up for the month of March and talk about what we read. Anything exciting? We're going to keep this a little short this time because we are getting ready to leave to go back to Pullman for 2 weeks. And it was a not great reading month for both of us. For a lot of reasons, understandable, and just, you know, it is what it is. So we'll try to run through these kind of quickly and then move on to April, and maybe April will have more luck.
Yeah. I hope so, because it's been a bad month. So
you did read more than me. I read 6 books.
Yeah.
So.
And I would like to say, I know Greg did this last time, but I want to say thank you to everybody who gave us some really kind comments, love and support for Jamie and me and Greg. And I just really appreciate it. I mean, I was telling Greg this morning, it's like, your tube loves you. And it's nice to see that kind of following and that kind of sincere gratitude from everybody. So thank you.
Yes, it does mean a lot to both of us. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And hopefully when we do our April wrap-up, we'll have good news about Jamie. Yeah. So, all right. Well, you have more books than me.
Okay.
So do you want to start?
Sure, I can.
Yeah.
Mine are going to be really quick because, like I said, it's been a bad month. So I did I actually did more books than I did audio books, which is rare for me. But the first one I did in the month of March was It's a Wonderful Knife, Knife.
Oh.
It was a play on a holiday melodrama romance novel by S.C. Wynne. So S.C. Wynne has been doing the Dr. Thornton series that I've absolutely enjoyed.
And I need to try.
And there's 7. I got down to 5, and the last 2 are not available unless I buy the book from Amazon, which is not going to happen.
No, we don't do that.
It was a fun book. It was a Christmas murder mystery, so.
Yeah. And if you follow, you know, Christmas is kind of our thing.
It's our thing.
It's our thing.
But my big read, which is still on my top of my list for the year, is Lord of the Flies by William Golding. I have never read it, and I loved it. It's part of my getting all the classics in. And I know it's been a big classic, and I absolutely loved it. It was brutal. I thought it was going to be sweet, but it was brutal.
It was.
Jamie's very upset
Jamie is very upset. She's letting you know that she's still spunky.
Yes. So she's doing great.
Actually, I have a copy of Lord of the Flies, and it has a nice cover, so I'll let you talk about it, and I'll grab it from this pile.
Because we were setting up the library, and I looked at it, and I go, did you like this book? And Greg said yes.
There it is. So this is, I don't think it's a first edition, but it is an older copy that I had ordered. It's just fun. So it's a great book. Yes, it is very, very bleak. I read it. I was in high school, but I didn't read it for high school. And then I read it again in a college course. And yeah, so I haven't read it since. I need to reread it at some point.
I towards the end, I got very shocked by some things that happened, and it really, really bummed me out.
Yeah.
But I finished and I liked it. I think number 1 read for me right now this year.
It's a good book.
So
yeah.
Oh, number 2 or 3, I think. Grapes of Wrath was mine.
Oh, which we'll talk about at the end when we talk about stuff that I'm still reading. But I would love to catch up. No, please, it's fine. So.
Okay. What do you
ready?
got?
All right. So my first read, and by the way, I should mention, because I want to make this easy to edit, I'm not going to search out photos of the books like I usually do to put them kind of up here. It's The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell. And this was kind of a fun book. It is a short mystery that actually you told me about. Yeah. And it is set in the United States, but kind of within the world of a sort of Great British Bake Off type competition show where someone gets murdered, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah. For 2 people who have really had a hard time reading, we're reading about a lot of
murder. Yeah, go figure. Can't explain it, but it was a fun book. I did think the ending kind of lost it a little bit, but it's cute. What's like, I don't know if cute's the word. But it was exactly what I needed in the moment. It was a fun, kind of engaging mystery. So
kind of an escapist because it's out there and it's fun and different. So
it's a little silly.
That's kind of what I enjoyed.
Yeah. So that was mine. You want to go next?
Sure. My next 2 were for the Montana Book Company Challenge, which I think you did one last month and one this. But I did Selected Poems by Gwendolyn Brooks.
Yes, which I had read in February.
Yeah, and I'm not a big poetry person, but there were a couple in there that kind of hit me that I liked. But some I was like, what did I just read? I'm sorry if you're a poetry reader. I am not. But there's some really good ones.
Yeah, and I kind of had the same reaction to it. I really appreciate the craft, but I felt like I didn't understand. Like it just kind of went right over my head. So I appreciate that I read it, but I feel like I didn't understand it. So, and I think we both read the same book next.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, I'll read the full title. The Philosopher Queens, The Lives and Legacies of Philosophy's Unsung Women by Rebecca Buxton and Lisa Whiting, which was also for Montana Book Company's Reading Challenge. Yeah. Jen, the librarian, had recommended, because I don't like to read philosophy, she recommended that I try this one because I feel like technically it doesn't really count because the prompt is to read a book of philosophy by a woman, and it's not a book of philosophy, but it is a book about philosopher women. So I'm going with it, and you're going to go with it too. So,
It was basically female philosophers, which I really kind of appreciated a lot of their stories and who they were. They did get into some of their philosophy, but it wasn't deep.
It wasn't like reading an entire book of philosophy. It would say, like, here's this woman, here's what informed her education and her life and her career and what she believed and what she taught. And then in like a quick burst, then went on to the next one. So every person was like 4 to 5 pages. Yeah. And then on to the next. And so it was really good. Yeah. I learned a lot, I felt. So.
I actually learned about some women I didn't know about. So
yeah, same.
Kind of cool. So.
So worked out pretty nicely. All right, you want to go?
Yeah. My next was probably my most anticipated read for this year. I am a big fan of Tess Gerritsen's The Rosolian Isle series. I want to throw a disclaimer out there. Her books are amazing. I love them. They're a little twisted and dark. Very different than Rosolian Isles, the TV series, show. Which is good, but different. Yeah. So this is number 13 in her series of Rosolian Isles, which I wait. Every time she comes out, I go for it. But it's called Listen to Me by Tess Gerritsen. And it was written very differently than what Tess normally does. Yeah. She did it like a lot of my little novels do of this chapter was Angela, this chapter was Jane, this chapter was Maura. And everybody had their own chapter, and then the murdered person has a chapter of kind of where they went. So it was a very different style, but it kind of worked. I liked it. Yeah. And I think she kind of was gearing a lot of the characters to match up a little bit with the TV show.
Which is interesting, because Maura Isles in particular is very different from the book to the series. Yeah.
Maura, and both of them, she's very classical, very put together, intelligent. But one's very cold, and the TV show is bubbly and perky and...
Like Hug.
Big hug.
Big hug.
And I love them both. Yeah. But she lightened Maura up a little bit in this book. So if you're a Rosolian Isles, or not, and you like a little bit of a mystery, and it's a cop and a forensics doctor. Yeah. So she does all the autopsies and says, oh, this is what happened. And the cop puts together all the pieces. So really good. 2 strong women. I love it. Yeah. And the supporting characters are a lot of fun.
And so when we first met, you recommended 2 books to me. One of them was Call Me by Your Name. Yeah. Which I loved, and the other one was that I think you loaned me the Rosolian Isles book you had on hand at the time, which was The Keepsake. So I read both and liked both. So hence we are here today. You scored big on both. And they are dark books. But it's been a while since she wrote a Rosolian Isles, and I've read all of them except this one. I haven't caught up to this yet.
And it's about 5 or 6 years, and Tess Gerritsen's Rosolian Isle books, I will only do by book. I don't want to listen to an audio because the audio would put a different voice and a different
you like inflection. Imagining.
And I have exactly who Rosolian Isles is in my head. Yeah. And I think that Rosalie is J-Lo for me.
You've mentioned that to me when I read The Keepsake, and it's not for me, but I can see it.
It works for me, so you're kind of a badass woman. So can I say that?
You can say that. It's fine.
So that was mine.
All right, then my next one was The Faraway World by Patricia Engel, which I listened to on audio. It's a story collection. I read Infinite Country by Patricia Engel a couple of years ago, and she writes, that was a novella. This is a collection of short stories, and she does really well with short fiction. She's also a very empathetic person, and I really deeply appreciate that. I liked the book a lot, and I don't know that it will be in my like top 5 once we get to the end of the year, but it would probably be a strong top 10, top 15. So I liked it a lot.
My next one was just one of my bedtime stories, The Fire Underneath, about 2 firefighters. It's a male romance.
I love that title. I'm sorry.
And cheesy, cute. It was fine.
Yeah.
But
that's where our headspace
it was where
is.
I needed to be. So.
Exactly. That's the headspace we've been in. We need comfort things, oddly like dark, twisted murder books, and also like romantic kind of things.
Yeah. I do want to throw in, it was by C.S. Wynne, who Jackie McMenamin has turned me on to for my detective series, which I can't find anymore. So I did one of their other books, and I like your style.
Yeah,
So,
I need to try it at some point. The problem is they've only been available on ebook, and I actually did try an ebook this past week, and I don't know, I really don't understand it. I don't know why. I just don't want to read an ebook. I don't know what it is. But anyway, my next book was actually a library book that we returned today. In fact, it was 84 Charing Cross Road by Helene, Hanff, which I was excited to finally get to because you read it last year and loved it. And then we watched the movie with Anthony Hopkins and Dan Bancroft in January.
Yeah.
And it was delightful. Oh, Judi Dench is in the movie
Judi
too.
Dench, yes.
God, love that cast. Yeah, and I really enjoyed the book. It was a very quick read, which is kind of exactly what I needed. I think I read it in like 2 hours.
Yeah,
because it's letters, and the letters are not long, so it went very quickly, and it's a really great, sweet story. I don't know that I would have ever picked it up if you hadn't picked it up.
Well, somebody from the channel referred it to us when I read
Saffron, Love and Saffron. Yeah.
Which are a collection of letters between 2 people. I just think both of those books were very endearing and very sweet. So I loved it. But 84 was a good one for me.
It was. And actually, because I know from my Friday Reads video where I discussed 84 Charing Cross Road, a lot of people are fans of that. So think about Love and Saffron, maybe, because we went the opposite direction. Love and Saffron first to 84 Charing Cross Road. So
just do them both.
Just do them both.
I don't care what order.
Yeah. So.
All right. Well, my last 2 I'm going to kind of combine because they were a little bit together. It was Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree.
Cinnamon bun energy.
Cinnamon bun all the way.
Literally.
I started, it is my only audiobook of March.
That's impressive.
Only one.
Yeah.
And I started it in February, and it's like, I can't do this. It's kind of boring.
So I read it in February because Doris from Aldi Books, hi Doris, thank you, I was talking about like easy, light things that I can read, and I was actually asking her about something else, and she said, you know what you need? It's Legends and Lattes. And I don't know that I would have ever read it without her, but I read it and really enjoyed it, and then told you know what you need.
I know. And I tried, and honestly, I couldn't have told you what the first chapter was about. I just wasn't listening. So I went on a work road trip, and I had 7 hours. It's like, I'm doing it because it's 7 hours long. And I got through the first chapter, and it's like, oh, this is cute. And then the second chapter, I was hooked.
Yeah.
It was like very endearing and very sweet.
I knew once it got to building the cafe that you were going to be hooked.
Yeah. And all the characters are great.
They are.
And it's a fantasy, gnome-ish kind of.
Yeah. The main character is an ogre. There's what is she, a succubus?
Succubus.
A succubus. They're kind of gnome creatures, magical cat-like creatures.
And I don't feel the story would have been as good if you used just people.
Yeah.
I kind of felt the fun of this story was ancient times, and nobody knew what coffee was, and the gnomes knew what coffee was, so the ogre started a coffee shop, and then there's a little magical twist in there, and I loved it. It was great.
I think because we talked about this while we were walking Jamie yesterday, and I had a knee-jerk reaction, like, no, it would have worked with people, but I think you're right. I think one of the things that really worked about the book for us is that it doesn't go in for, you know, like that classic complaint, Marvel movies always end in like giant cinematic potentially world-ending things. And this resists that urge. There are seeds in there where like a different author would have gone in that direction. And it just wants to do that quiet, I'm going to use the word human, but, you know, there are ogres and all that kind of story about quiet relationships, and that's where all of the stakes are. And I think you're right. It probably, if it was human people, it probably would have seemed like nothing was happening, but because it's ogres, it doesn't.
Because all the creatures, the different characters, apparently don't get along, but in this world they did get along, and they learned from each other. I think there's a lot of underlying tones in this book, and it's exactly what I needed this week.
It's a cute book. Very cute book.
Then the other part of it was the prequel, Pages to Fill, is basically the ogre's life before, and what led her up to saying, hey, I want to start a coffee shop.
Which I don't think I did, so
really?
I don't know how I missed that.
Okay, so here's the last chapter in his audio.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah,
okay.
I did do that.
And the very last line is she opens up her notebook to write down about the first coffee shop she's ever seen. She goes, I need to take notes. I have pages to fill.
And we have a title. Yeah.
That was my reading.
And Jamie's saying hello. All right, and then my last one was The Nursing Home Murder by Ngaio Marsh. This has been a source of frustration and entertainment for me in a weird way. So if you follow along, you know I have sort of struggled with mysteries and thrillers, although I used to do a lot of them. And actually, you know, I was thinking I should probably take a Sue Grafton book with us.
Oh, yeah.
That would probably help me. So anyway, so I loved Sue Grafton, but I don't really like what the mystery genre is. I've struggled to get into them a lot over the recent years, and I can't quite pinpoint why, but I do better with classic style mystery whodunits, and like Anne Cleeves. I enjoyed those books. They're not the sort of classic whodunit. Our neighbors had recommended Ngaio Marsh. These follow a detective inspector named Alan. His last name is Alan. And I found the first 3 books and then the 5th book for $1 at our local used bookstore. So I grabbed them all. I read the first one in December, and it was wild. And I think if I hadn't purchased like 3 other ones, I probably would have said, I don't know that I'll continue in that series, because it took a really wild detour. Had like a socialist mafia that they took down in the middle of the book, and then came back to solve the mystery. And the mystery itself was solved in the most wild and ridiculous way, to the point where I was like, are you ever going to read this book?
No.
And you said no, and I said, get this. And here's how the crime was committed. Yeah, and I think your exact reaction was like, what? So yeah, it was like that. So I probably wouldn't have continued. But in January, I did read the second one, and it was an improvement. Yeah. It's still, like, oddly, a character from the first one carried into the sequel, and I feel like there was no need for that. I don't know why he was there, but hey. And then the third one, I was feeling a little bit relieved because he was not there, and then all of a sudden he shows up toward the end to infiltrate an underground communist group. So it's like, okay, Ngaio Marsh has a type. So I genuinely kind of don't know. And now I have the 5th book, but I'm missing the 4th. So I feel like I might try the 4th one just to get into the 5th. But I feel like I was powered through reading it last weekend just based on frustration, which is not a great feeling. But yeah, so that was my last book.
Well, when we're in Pullman, there's a good used bookstore.
There is.
So we're going to check it out. And there's something I want to start looking for.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, you have your Sue Grafton collection?
Yeah.
I'd like to do my Tess Gerritsen collection.
Oh, yeah, let's do that.
Bucks,
yeah, that's true. And I'm sure we could find copies.
Yeah.
So what I want to look for there is, we'll see if they have the 4th Ngaio Marsh book, which I'm not super excited about. But I also want to see if they have 84 Charing Cross Road.
Oh,
because I would like a copy, and I want a used copy.
A really pretty copy.
Yeah, hopefully a pretty copy, but I think a used copy would really fit the spirit of the book, because even in the book, she talks about how she loves used books and the history that you could feel in the book, and that is something I've really come around to.
And she also loved when people would make notes in the margins.
Yeah,
she goes, I get to read a book somebody else held in their hand, and their thoughts. And it was a kind of a beautiful thought. Yeah,
I remember a while ago I was reading a book and somebody had underlined almost like the entire book, and sometimes it was kind of like, oh, this is kind of cute, because they're probably like a student who was really excited about this and trying to figure out what was important. And so it's like, it was kind of like, I don't know. It was just like a fun journey to take with that person, even though you have no idea who they were. So, yeah. And that was March.
Yeah. What are you reading in April?
Well, all right. So I need to finish The Grapes of Wrath still. So we started The Grapes of Wrath in February. Together. And Joel finished. You were doing an audio. I was reading the book.
It's true. I was doing audio.
To give me a little credit. But you were. Well, the joke is I'm into it. I'm really liking The Grapes of Wrath. It's just my headspace has been so interrupted and taken up with stuff going on that I felt like I was getting stressed every time I picked it up, and I don't want to read it. I don't want to end up being resentful at the book because other things are going on. So.
But you're also doing it for your Pulitzer. So you're taking a lot of notes. So every time you read something, you take a note. And I think that kind of wore you out.
Oh, it sure did. And I told myself I'm going to do this and I'm not going to take notes. And then I did it for like 25 pages and then like quietly picked up a pen, took a note because
What you doing?
Yeah. It's like nothing. I'm not taking notes. And I think that's really true. I think because it's for my Pulitzer Prize project, I'm putting pressure on myself, which is not fair to the book and not fair to me and not fair to you, because I should have finished this book 2 months ago.
Okay. But then you started taking less notes by hitting the highlights. But
yes.
I would love for you to get back in your headspace to do the notes, because you make great videos when you do your deep dives.
Well, thank you. So I need to get back to that. And I have been listening to If I Survive You by Jonathan Escoffrey, which was longlisted for the National Book Award, and I would say is a Pulitzer Prize contender. I'll put a link to my Pulitzer Prize predictions down below. But it's a really good book. I'm enjoying it, but it's very serious. It's about race in a really interesting way, because the protagonist is the first person in his family to be born in the United States. They come from Jamaica, and he is light-skinned. So in Jamaica, there really wasn't any... there wasn't too much of a commentary on race, but then they come to the U.S. and he goes to school, and people are constantly asking him, like, well, what are you? And he's like, I don't know what you mean. And they're talking about race. They want to know what he is. And in Miami, where they had settled, there are a lot of like razor thin lines between different groups. And then he goes to college more in the Midwest, where everybody's just like, oh, you're black. That's what you are. And he just doesn't know where he belongs. It's a really interesting book, but again, very serious and kind of heavy. So I've been dragging my way through it, and I do want to finish it. And I'm worried that if I skip to something else on audio, that I'm going to put it down and never get back to it. So I might try to power through it a little bit this coming week. And if I don't, I might switch to something else and try to see if that will get me back into the flow of listening. But that's what I'm carrying into April. What do you have going on?
Well, we're leaving for Pullman tomorrow, so we're going to...
We're going here.
We're going there.
Yeah.
And we're going to do the Christmas wish list by N.R. Walker. Yeah. It's a male romance again, but it's going to be short. It's going to be Christmassy. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of baking.
There is.
And kind of everything... for. So
he chose wisely.
So something light and cheerful to get us to Pullman.
Yeah.
But then I have two books that I have battling back and forth, but we just got it in the mail and I'm very excited to read it.
Hang on. Well, good talk.
Okay. Is Becoming Ted, and by Matt Cain.
Yeah.
And Matt Cain did The Secret Life of Albert Entwistle.
Yes.
That we both love, that Erica from The Broken Spine got us. And we love that book.
We do.
So this is his next book, and I'm going to dive into it during our trip because it's big print.
It is.
Thick margins, and I can read it in bed, which I normally can't in our...
We're going to be in a hotel room for 2 weeks, so we're going to need things to keep us entertained that are not just television. So, and it was annoying because Secret Life of Albert Entwistle was released in the UK and in the US. This one was only released in the UK. So you pre-ordered this from Queer Lit, right? Yeah. Which is a great queer bookstore in Manchester. Check them out. And, sorry, the chairs are making weird noises here.
It's not me.
It's not me. And then he announced that he has another one coming out next year in January. I can't remember the name of it. But I'm guessing it's only going to be in the UK again. So we'll probably have to pre-order from Queer Lit again. Yeah. So, like supporting a queer bookstore.
Also, our edition is signed. So Matt Cain did a lot of books, signed it. So it's signed. And I posted on Instagram. He actually got back to me.
Yes.
And I told him how much I loved Albert Entwistle. And he said it meant a lot to him.
Yeah.
Then my last kind of book I'm going to try to get through in April is Full Circle by Michael Thomas Ford. It's
that one.
Right there.
Right there.
I've read it before, but I'm doing it for the challenge. Read something that meant that.
I think the challenge prompt is like read something influential when you were younger or something like that. And I take a very liberal interpretation or something that meant something to you. It implies in your youth, but that can mean so many different things.
But I read it in the 90s, and I was just coming out, and it's about this gay man, and it goes through 4 decades of his life. So he starts off in the Vietnam, the Vietnam
he's born
War.
He's born in 1950, I think. Yeah.
So when he's old enough, he goes through Vietnam. He goes through the 70s. He goes through the AIDS crisis, and now he's going through in the 90s with his partner and husband, and it's just the whole journey he went for these 4 decades, and it was a beautiful book. I liked it.
I remember liking it a lot,
and
which is why there's a hardcover faced out on the shelf.
Yeah. And so it's one I want to read again. So Michael Thomas Ford, all of his book covers are done by an artist called Walker.
Yeah.
And
grab it so we can hold it up.
Yeah, by Walker. And Walker is kind of one of my favorite contemporary artists.
Try to do this without a shine.
Yeah. And actually we have a painting over our dresser of one of his, of 2 men looking out to the sea with a umbrella. Yeah. And when we got married in Banff,
on Lake Moraine,
Lake Moraine, we actually took an umbrella and we tried to redo that picture, and we were a little rushed, and it's very, very close and good.
It is close,
not quite.
It's not. We could have done it better.
Yeah. But it's one of my favorite paintings, and I loved it. And so we kind of reproduced it on our wedding. Yeah, it was fun.
So we have our photo right on the dresser underneath the painting, which is nice. So yeah.
All right.
So that's us. And then I think so that's March. That's what we have coming up in April. Who knows how successful we'll be in any of those things in April? Because we'll see. But we will check in with you at the end of April. I will have other things posting while we're gone, and check in with you when I don't know if there will be Friday reads while we're gone. We'll see what we can do, but I'm kind of anticipating that we'll have other things going on, and I'll have to skip for 2 weeks. But it is what it is. Anyway, we'll leave it at that, and I think that's everything, right?
I think so.
Yeah. So I'll just say I really appreciate your time. And again, thank you for all of the support and kind words and all of that. It really does mean a lot to both of us and Jamie, even though she's angry at something. So thank you for all of that.
Thank you.
And we'll be back. Until next time, happy reading.